connecting to the internet.
Internet.
Networking software.
World Wide Web thing on a computer today.
Computer.
NetSurfer Pro.
Okay, so you are entering a dirty street. There are many people on either side of the street. Some people are just buying, something at the market. Yes.
When you say entering a dirty street, do you mean like going under the street, like in the sewers, or do you mean like we're walking onto the street?
So you started in the sewers, of course, in this campaign, and you have now opened a section of the street like it is a door.
Okay.
And so that's how you've entered the street.
Okay, I see. In sort of, philosophically, we are entering and not exiting.
Exactly.
Okay.
On the other side, you see a man. He is wearing Wrangler jeans. He's wearing shoes. He's got kind of a hat, but it's a little bit iconic, marginally iconic. He looks over at you and says, "Hey, you, fight me."
Can I like roll to not fight?
Yeah, go ahead and roll. Let's see here.
All right, I press the circle button to dodge roll away from this guy.
Okay, good. Yes. So yeah, as he winds up a big slam, you dodge roll away, and he hits a big downward slam. Would you like to follow up and punish?
I'm gonna roll away again.
Ooh, okay. So you've rolled now. Unfortunately, now you're in the corner. So you are going to have to do something about that.
All right, I'm gonna roll away again.
As in away from the corner or away from the guy?
Away from the guy.
Okay, so you've rolled into the corner, but now you're still just kind of like in the corner.
Okay.
He is approaching, and he does have probably a jab lined up next. So if you might want to think about guarding or.
Okay, well, so far this hasn't failed me, so I'm going to roll away again.
I'm sorry. You thought that he was going to go for a jab, and so rolling would work, but he actually went for a grab there. So he does. He did a bit of a throw you to the other side kind of grab.
Okay.
So you do have now sort of a bunch of space. What would you like to do?
You know what? So he just threw me. I have a bunch of space to work with.
Yes.
I'll sort of crouch down to the ground and roll away.
Okay, yep. So you roll away again. Oh gosh. Aren't we supposed to be doing the podcast that we do? NetSurfer Pro, Whirlwind Ride Through the World Wide Web.
Oh, wait, hold on. Is that like part of the battle?
Oh no.
Is that what the guy says to me?
Yeah, actually, the guy is like, "Hey, wait, aren't you supposed to be doing a podcast right now?"
Yeah, hold on. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to roll away from my responsibilities of doing the podcast.
All right, cool. So we're going to continue this bit, as everybody, I'm sure, who's currently listening really wants us to do. We're going to keep doing this bit.
All right. So I just continue to roll. And, many years later, you are walking through the street and you see what looks like a tumbleweed, but as you brush past the caked on dirt and grass and mud and horse shit, you see it's just me rolling away again.
Oh shit, I was the one playing it the entire time.
Yes! I was really the dungeon master. And this was the tale of the rollback. That's what they mean by rollback netcode, right?
Yeah, famously, actually.
Yeah, so anyways, this is NetSurfer Pro, World Wide Through the World Wide Web. I am your host, Matthew Marisa, and with me is...
Galen.
And we're going to talk about a lot, but first, just quick side note, we saw the D&D movie.
Yes.
We have not seen the Mario movie.
Yes. Unfortunately, we are going to be seeing the Mario... Well, no, not unfortunately. We are going to be seeing the Mario movie, but unfortunately, we didn't even realize that the D&D movie and the Mario movie basically showed up in the same week.
So we saw the D&D movie, and I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
It was fun. It had, a lot of references for old-time fans, but also, I don't think you need to know D&D to have fun. Pretty
Definitely
typical
not, yeah.
fantasy adventure movie, which I kind of wish we had more of.
Yeah. It was there was just enough to be like, oh hey, it's the hand move. It's a very like remember this move kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was, I don't know, it was very fun.
My headcanon is that Chris Pine's character is either an NPC class and not a player class.
Yep.
That's why he doesn't cast any spells or do anything. Or that he is a bard, but he only uses bardic inspiration and does not use any bardic spells.
Both of these are valid readings.
He could also have the bard jack of all trades. That is a thing.
True. He's the skill monkey.
Yeah. Skill monkey get up, get coffee. Skill monkey go to job.
Yeah, it was a perfectly fun movie. I wouldn't have any major complaints. If I had some very minor complaints, it would be there is a tiefling in the movie, but it's a human skin tiefling.
Yeah,
I feel
fucking
like
whitewashed tiefling.
Yeah, I feel like missed opportunity to have a colorful tiefling.
Yeah.
I understand, like, obviously the actors not being like the I will say real puppetry.
Yeah,
at various different
it has
parts.
like some practical effects. This movie feels weirdly low budget in the best way.
Yeah, I genuinely loved that.
Yeah,
there's a
big puppet fish.
Yeah, there's a big puppet fish that swallows a puppet. Oh god, begins with a T. Cat people.
Cat people. There you go.
Tanuki. No,
that's not a tanuki.
Yeah, of which the mother cat person is also a puppet. Mm-hmm. There's a puppet dragon in the intro. It's very good.
There is a big chubby dragon, and he is the best boy.
Yep.
There's a DM NPC.
Yep.
That part's great. It's great. Too many rolling shots, by the way. They do the shot like 4 times where the camera goes 180 over itself and it gives you vertigo.
Yeah.
It's so bad. They do this more than once. Who told the director you could do this?
Well, he heard the phrase roll a lot when people were playing, and so
I was like, is the bit that it's like rolling dice? Because that's bad. That's the only thing I could think of. Otherwise, why would you? It's so baffling. It's like the guy heard like, okay, when the Wachowski sisters were making Matrix and they made that whole camera circle? I want to do that. But I want to do it in a way nobody else has done, so I'm going to turn it on its side like a wheel.
Yeah. As I said, exiting when you made this comment initially, famously D&D players don't usually stick to 2-dimensional planes when things happen.
Yeah.
That's definitely not a huge aspect of D&D. I will also say, if I'm allowed to get up on a soapbox for a little bit, it is a little disappointing that even like background-wise, spotted like nothing queer.
Yeah,
just one background couple that's gay. Come on,
that's fair.
For D&D being like one of the biggest queer audiences nowadays. Like, come on. But that's me really getting into the nitpicks. Other than that, it was just
I like that started with a prison break, very D&D.
Yep.
Everybody tells their tragic backstory.
Yep.
That's very D&D. It ended with the big bad getting completely disgraced.
Yes.
Very D&D. Like, it's funny, and the thing is, like, I'm sure there's people being like, oh, it's Joss Whedon-esque, like, it's quippy. But, like, that's D&D. It's written as if you were to take the events of a D&D campaign, told separate from the idea of there being players.
Exactly.
It feels like playing D&D, and that's perfect.
As someone who is still sympathetic to a certain amount of, like, I wish that superhero movies took themselves more seriously, I wish that they were written better, at least, things of that nature, this is definitely a movie that's like, it's D&D. This is why it's funny. And so, yeah, I think it's pretty fine, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Fight choreography was good.
Yes.
I like the fights.
The fights are good.
Yeah.
So that's the review of the D&D movie. But
speaking of fights,
and speaking of things that you play,
so we are doing another theme month, if you could believe it.
Yep.
This is Fighting Gamepril. I'm really into fighting games.
I'm pretty into fighting games.
I've gotten you into fighting games to some extent.
Yeah. I was kind of into it previously. I will say, to explain myself a little bit, you were not actually the one to specifically get me in. You were the one to hone me to really being into it. Ooh. But I pretty much picked up I picked up fighting games mostly with people who played Smash in my college dorm.
Nice.
That was how I in fact remember that because I got my ass kicked constantly. But for a little while after, I would actually be able to beat you in Smash. Because I was like, oh shit, I played this more, and now I'm a little bit better at it. And that was how I learned that you can pick up new skills.
Yeah. So, my experiences for the past, I want to say like 5 years, definitely before COVID.
Yeah.
I've been active in the local fighting game community, and I'd only say I got decent in the last year. Fighting games are very hard. It's a big learning process, and part of why I love it is the ability to just get better at it.
Yes.
Like, it's not about being the best, it's about being better than I was a year ago. And, I mean, it's fun to beat people and win, and it's fun to see these weird interactions and have tough fights. But I think ultimately my drive for playing them is one of honing, of getting better. And that's part of why I enjoy it. Also, it has a great community around here. The community aspect is a huge part of why I like it.
Yeah. Shoutouts to the STL fighting game community.
STL FGC, shoutouts. If any of you ever listen to this, I'm sorry. Probably going to get some stuff wrong. Especially today. Today we are going to talk about probably my main fighting game. But first, I want to give an overview of fighting games.
Yes.
So fighting games. You hit someone, they hit you. Whoever gets hit more loses, in general terms. When you talk about fighting games, it's hard to really establish a true definition because so many games aim to deconstruct what a fighting game can be. So like most of what I'm going to mention is relevant to the game we're talking about today, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Especially huge parts of it. So this is sort of, there's a lot of terminology when it comes to fighting games. And there's a lot of like, I know it when I see it when it comes to what is a fighting game. So I want to just break down sort of from an abstract view. This is what some of the terminology means in an introductory Fighting Games 101 way. So, getting hit is bad because when you get hit, you lose.
Yes.
And usually there's either a timer or something to say like, if the game ended, if you took more damage, then you lost, even if you didn't die. You can lose even if you didn't die because you took more damage.
Yes.
So in most games, you can block, where if somebody hits you, you can usually press a button or hold away from them in order to block the attack. Now, when you get hit, not only do you take damage, but you get put into Hitstun, which is just sort of being shook by the attack. If somebody punched you in real life, you wouldn't be able to do anything for a solid half a second at least.
Yes.
You would be too surprised and shocked and, what have you. That's Hitstun. And when people are able to, like when your opponent puts you in hit stun by hitting you, usually they can continue to do other hits up to a certain point. So hitting your opponent consecutively while they're in a hit stun is a combo. That's sort of the general idea of what a combo is.
Yes.
So blocking has similar things. When you're blocking and you get hit, you don't take hit stun, but you take block stun. Block stun is a period of time where you are still blocking and you cannot take any other actions. Now, since you want to hit your opponent and you don't want to get hit, you will want to either hit the opponent and do combos, or hit them while they're blocking and do a sequence of moves that is safe and puts pressure on the opponent, preventing them from counterattacking. That is called a block string. These are all important.
Yes.
Any sort of sequence of inputs could be, or any sequence of attacks could be a string. In the sense it is a string of attacks. So, let's say somebody is blocking. Let's say you're blocking. Usually your opponent has ways to stop you from blocking as well. So, for example, in most games with blocking, throws beat blocks.
Yes.
Somebody's like holding their hands up to prevent you from punching them. You can just grab them. So throws beat blocks. Also, many games will have low attacks, where, think of it like sweeping the leg. It's where if you're standing up and you're not crouching down, and somebody tries to hit you on your feet or in that area, you will fall over and get knocked down because, your leg gets swept. And also many games will have overheads where if you're crouching and somebody hits you up on the head, you will get hit because it doesn't really make as much sense. It doesn't map as much. I think the idea is that, like, if you're standing, you can kind of roll with the punch and bend your head down. But if you're crouching, then your head doesn't have anywhere to go, so it puts pressure on your neck. I don't know. It's video games.
There is a certain amount of abstraction, but if you generally remember low, mid, and high as the like types of attacks, you can basically keep in...
Think of it like there's low, mid, and high, and usually you can either block mid and low or mid and high.
Yeah.
And you choose. And then additionally, usually if your opponent tries to grab you, you can jump or punch them quickly to stop them from grabbing. This creates a sort of rock, paper, scissors triangle to where the defender who is blocking has options, but they widely still have to react to the person who's attacking. This is the advantage and disadvantage state. If you're in a disadvantage, that means that you have to respond to what the opponent does more so. So, you know, they can attack you while you're blocking, and you have to watch for them going high or low. You have to pay attention to if they'll throw you or just hit you again. You have to carefully time counterattacks, whereas they have a bit more freedom. And then if you're at advantage, it's that you have the freedom to do more options. You could keep attacking, you could extend your block string, you could go for a mix-up, which is when you try to make your opponent guess whether they have to block one way or another. Similarly, there's also usually directional blocking, where you could either block left or right, and the opponent can like jump over you to hit you from behind.
Yeah.
And that's called a cross-up. And so the defender doesn't want to block because it still puts them in a bad spot. They're still at disadvantage even if they're blocking. So you don't want to get hit and you don't want to block, but you want to hit your opponent, but your opponent wants to hit you. How do you do this? This is where the neutral game comes into play. The neutral game is when neither player is at an advantage or disadvantage, and they're trying to gain some sort of presence. This can mean things like, usually common ways to hit your opponent are some moves will be disjointed, which means that they have a bigger hitbox than hurtbox. You can hit your opponent, but they can't hit you.
Yeah.
An example would be if you have a really big sword, then the sword hurts the opponent, but they would have to attack where your hand or arm is.
Yeah.
And so moves like that could be good. Sometimes you can try to bait the opponent by doing something that looks unsafe. A big one is there are pokes, which are quick moves that are usually pretty safe to throw out. I should mention what recovery is in startup. This is sort of an animation thing, but every move can sort of be split into 3 separate times. There's the startup, which is the start of the move, the active frames, which are the times where the move actually will hit the opponent, and then the recovery, which is when the move is sort of on cooldown, where you can't do anything because you're waiting for the move to finish.
Yeah.
So imagine you have a sword in a sheath. The startup is pulling the sword out of the sheath. The active frames is the actual slash, and the recovery is bringing your hand down and putting it back in the sheath.
Yeah.
So you can think of it like when you actually press a button, you have to prepare the move, do the move, and then finish the move. This happens within the span of less than a second.
Yeah.
But sometimes that matters. Many times it doesn't, sometimes it does. So a safe move is a move that is usually quick to recover and quick to come out in some degree, or also has range / is disjointed. So you can do that, or you can move. Movement is used in pretty much every fighting game for a lot of things. You can move towards the opponent, and some people might be pressured and they'll walk backwards. And in most fighting games, you don't have infinite space behind you. I'm looking at you, that one stage in Tekken. And so if you keep walking backwards, you'll be cornered, which is bad. You can walk backwards to get away from your opponent. In some games, like Street Fighter, the movement's a lot more ground-focused, and so people will be stepping very short amounts. They'll be kind of doing very quick adjustments. Whereas in games like Marvel vs. Capcom or Melty Blood, players or characters have really fast ground movement and they have good air movement. So they can they move around much quicker and try to make tricky approaches and try to make their movement look weird and fast and hard to read. And ultimately, this is under the idea of spacing.
Yes. So I want to sort of like pull back for 1 second because I know that there is more to explain, but I want to just like use a little give a little overview of like how this looks in practice.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to use the example that was used in the very good video that I was recommended
By Core Gaming?
Yes.
Yes.
Called-
I should mention I'm cribbing a lot from Core Gaming and the Infilament Fighting Game Glossary. Shoutouts.
Nice.
The video by Core Gaming is called Why Button Mashing Doesn't Work.
Yes. Very good video. Really good at sort of explaining the terminology and how people tend to think. And I'm specifically going to use the example of in Street Fighter, there is Dulcim and Zangief. Dulcim is a long limb guy. He stretches arms out just for you.
Jinx.
And he uses that range to like keep other people at range and do most of his damage. Zangief is a grappler. He wants to get in close, he wants to hug you, and then he wants to do a lot of damage to you when he's really close. So when the match starts, both players are at neutral because Zangief is too far away, but Dulcim is too close to be most effective. And so at the start of the match, for clarity, as somebody who has not played Street Fighter at all, this is more just sort of like, theoretically think of these characters as just what this is. But generally, what you're going to assume is, well, the Zangief's going to want to be closer, the Dulcim's going to be far away. So, for example, the Zangief could walk closer, and the Dulcim could walk backwards to, not be hit by him. But if the Dulcim does that forever, then he's going to hit a wall. So, for example, Dulcim might, for example, have faster movement if he's jumping backwards. So he might be doing that, but Zangief knows that, well, if he does that, I can, hit him with an overhead. Again, this is not based off of actual moves that these characters have, but this is more just like, when we are describing this, a lot of this is micro decisions that take place over just kind of, split seconds, and they tend to have a lot of just like, really gut reaction things. It's, I want to get closer, I want to get farther away, I want to do this specific move,
Yeah, you'll hear moves talked often in terms of like the role it does. Like there are pokes, which are, like I said, fast, safe moves. There are like big moves that are hard to get away from, so they cover a lot of space. You have moves that are hard to block. Moves that are safe on block, meaning that you can do other things before the opponent can if they block it.
Yep.
But this all happens very quickly. I wanted to say, spacing as a whole, you can think of it like the range your opponent has. You want to stay outside of it for as long as possible, and only enter that range when you have some sort of plan of attack.
Yes.
An example from a character I play, in Guilty Gear Xrd, I play Heiyun. And Heiyun has this button where he charges forward with his elbow, and it's very fast. Very fast. However, if they block it, they can almost always attack me first and then kill me with it. Or kill me for it. Or at least do a lot of damage. So, my goal at the start of a round is to... Usually first, it's to either press that button in hopes that they pressed a button and I can hit them first with my fast move. Or my goal is to do a move with long range that is less risky to then put them a little further away. And then if they try to attack me, I can hit them with the fast move.
Yeah.
So like I have a lot of range at the start of a game, and I can use that to my advantage because I have like a big kick button to kind of keep the opponent at a distance. And then the ball is in their court whether they want to approach or stay behind. But either way, I now have a bit of freedom.
Yeah.
And, eventually after playing the game with them a few times, I might be like, oh, they like to summon a projectile at the start of the game. So I can use my fast move, my elbow move, because I know they're not going to be blocking or hitting me.
Yes. The human element is a lot of why I feel like writing any individual fighting game off is kind of a fool's errand.
Yeah.
For example, Fox is the best character in Melee. If you look at pure statistics, Fox generally just kind of is. His shine, as I was mentioning, has a one-frame startup, which means that essentially the button you press it is out. And it also like interrupts the opponent. It reflects. It does a lot of good things, and it does it very quickly and with very minimal punish if you don't do it. Things like things of that nature where technically he is faster. He does good damage for how fast he is, etc., etc. However, if you just say, well, Fox is clearly the best character, you're going to have to immediately answer to, say, Marth, or Falco, Sheik. Like, there are, because Yoshi. Because he is, sort of at the top, a lot of people have spent a lot of time learning how to counter his specific strengths.
Right. Like I mentioned, many fighting games are built around rock, paper, scissors at the micro level, but at the macro level, there's also the idea that there are strategies for certain characters that can be prevented by other strategies. And those strategies exist in a giant web of strategic play.
Yeah.
This gets me to character archetypes.
Yep.
If every character fought the same, it would be boring. I'm sorry. So we have sort of fighting game developers have created archetypes of characters that tend to fill similar roles in the games they're in. And they offer variety, they offer depth, they offer expression for players.
Yep.
A lot of people will play similar archetypes in each game, whether it's a aesthetic archetype like the random item character, or the wacky character who fights with random things, stuff foo they call it.
Nice.
Or the main archetypes, which I will briefly go over. So first there's Rushdown, which is the aggressive archetype. Rushdown tend to have moves that are better for getting close to the opponent, and or once they're close to the opponent, they're better at mixing up the opponent and putting on pressure. Rushdown tend to be fast, and that allows them to evade the opponent's unsafe moves, or get past the next type, the Zoner. The Zoner want to cut off the opponent's options, usually by keeping them at a distance, and controlling the space between them and the opponent. They want to control the zone of play. Dalsum is a big example. His long limbs allow him to keep the opponent blocking from across the screen. Oftentimes it's characters with like big weapons, or also it could be characters with a lot of projectiles, or just good projectiles. Even Ryu can be a zoner because he has a fireball.
Shoutouts to my girl, Zelda from Ultimate specifically. I love her. She's wonderful, and she's the best zoner I play.
Shoutouts to Peacock from Skullgirls, the best zoner in any video game, aka Yo Ho Ho, time to blow, Argus Agony. Anyways, so zoners are the sort of long distance archetype, akin to Control, you could say. And then you already mentioned grapplers. Grapplers don't have fast speed. They don't have long range, unless you're Potemkin, but what they do have is huge damage, usually through throws or, a sort of layered mix-up game that involves throws.
Yeah.
The most famous is Zangief, who is huge and can, delete half your health bar with spinning piledriver.
Yep.
Really good. The grapplers tend to be big and heavy and have a lot of health, but in return they're slow. But in return, once they get in, they can do a lot.
Yep. Shoutouts as well to the bear from Tekken, who is also
Kuma.
Yeah, a famous grappler.
Mm-hmm. Or Potemkin, Iron Tiger, the funniest one because he has magnet hands. He is Dr. Magnet Hands. Ice Climbers.
Yeah.
Kind of. Donkey Kong. And then there's some other that will be sometimes a thing, sometimes they'll be mixed in with other archetypes. So there's mid-range characters who don't have the exact distance that zoners do, but they don't have the ability to fight up close like Rushdown or grapplers. So they tend to rely on keeping the opponent sort of halfway between full screen and immediately next to them, and use their big normals to just, act as if they were right next to the opponent, but further away.
Yeah. They lack in strengths, but they make up for it in sort of being at their best in normal neutral.
Yeah. My favorite of this is Cliff Underson from Guilty Gear Accent Core, who has a giant fucking sword. He uses it like a little wedge to step over people.
Nice.
Really funny guy. I don't really know if Street Fighter has a good example of a mid-range character. Most of what I can think of are from like anime fighters like Gordeau and Uni.
Most of who I could immediately think of are probably wrong examples. Like,
I guess you could say like Marth.
Yeah.
Marth revolves widely around using his big sword to be further from opponents.
Yeah.
But not far enough that like Samus or Falco could shoot them. There's also set play, which involves setting things up such that the opponent's options are limited. Thus, the amount of the line of play is set.
Yeah.
The term comes from soccer, aka football.
Football.
Where like a penalty kick, the opponent's response to it is set.
Yeah.
Something like that. I could be wrong about the soccer part, but I know in fighting games, it is when you do a sequence of actions that limits what the opponent can do. And usually this involves putting something on the stage.
For example, Snake in Project Plus.
That's one. A good example would be, I want to say Urien from Street Fighter 3, where he has this move called Aegis Reflector, right? It's a big wall, and it's a hitbox. And so he'll knock you down, use Aegis Reflector, and if you try to attack or do like a Dragon Punch, then you'll get hit by the wall. So you kind of have to block it.
That is a good example. Unfortunately, I've already submitted Snake from Project Plus, and so you have to delete it, unfortunately.
A few other important terms. Reversal is a move that is usually invincible, but is able to sort of quickly get the opponent off of you. Often these are called DPs or Dragon Punches because the most famous one and the first one is the Shoryuken from Street Fighter. It is a move that is effective defensively, but is very unsafe if you miss. There are anti-airs, which are moves that hit the opponent if they try to attack you from the air. And there's also air-to-airs, which is when you jump to attack the opponent instead of hitting them with an anti-air.
Nice.
And I think that's most of it for now. That's most of the terminology I want to cover. I touched on the big archetypes, though, which is big because as much as we're talking about fighting games, the one we're talking about today is a platform fighter.
Yes. So throw out half of what we just said.
So platform fighters are fighting games mixed with platformers. That's the pitch.
Don't actually throw it out. This is all groundwork for the rest of the rest of this month.
So plat fighters, they're fighting games with platformer movement where you run and jump in a way similar to like Mario or Sonic rather than, Street Fighter or Guilty Gear or Mortal Kombat. The reason I bring this up is because, one of the biggest ones, Smash Bros, has Mario and Sonic in it.
Yeah, it doesn't have any
like
Olympic
Smash
games.
Bros. It's like Smash Bros.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about Smash Bros. We're talking about an independent plat fighter.
Yes, that's right. We're talking about multiverses. Wait, no, that got taken down.
We're talking about Slap City. Wait, nobody plays that anymore. Talking about...
Indie Pogo?
Oh, that's a good one. Stardust Valkyries.
Stardust Crusaders.
That's it's not a plat fighter, sadly.
Stardust
Speedway.
Stardust Valley.
So Rivals of Aether. I'm going to start with a brief history of Rivals of Aether. So it all starts with this guy named Dan Fernacey. He is the director, lead designer, programmer of Rivals of Aether. He made a fan game called Super Smash Land, which was a demake of Smash Bros. As if it were made for the Game Boy. So it has monochrome colors and the pea green soup.
Nice.
It has fewer button inputs because the Game Boy has fewer inputs than GameCube. And it has Vaporeon, which is his favorite Pokemon. So after that, he went on to work with Microsoft on the 2013 Killer Instinct reboot.
Interesting.
Where he sort of learned a lot about fighting game development and the actual development side of making a release commercial fighting game.
Yeah.
However, he left that once the game released to work on his indie game Rivals of Aether, which would soon start getting shown at demos in various conventions and tournaments. Rivals of Aether was one of the first main independent platform fighters that wasn't Smash but was inspired by Smash but wasn't Smash.
Yeah.
There's a big tendency to compare plat fighters to Smash Bros, and I think nowadays there's enough that it's sort of established itself as its own genre.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was Smash Bros. And PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale,
Pizzazz
which wishes it was Smash Bros. It so wishes. The Rivals then released in 2017 in its initial release, which included 6 characters.
Ooh.
Zetterburn, Forsburn, Maple, Crag, Raster, and Orcane. Edalus and Absa were then added between the early access and the initial release, so the first release had 8 characters, which is 2 reps from 4 elements: fire, water, wind, and earth. Also, this game is furry.
Yes.
It's furries.
This game is very furry.
It's the furry Smash Bros, as they call it. It's fine though.
Soup Fur Smash Bros.
They're all animals. So, after that, the post-release sort of updates added DLC characters in the order of Clarid and Rano together.
Nice.
Eliana and Sylvanos together.
Nice.
I main both of those.
Nice.
And then the guest character Shovel Knight, and then finally Ori from Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yes.
Something interesting to note is that I think part of this was because of Dan Fernacci's contacts from working with Microsoft. Rivals was released on PC and Xbox. However, after the Shovel Knight update, like the first release of Shovel Knight, it stopped getting updates on Xbox. So if you were to play Rivals of Aether on Xbox One, you would get a really old version of most of the characters. You wouldn't have Ori. Sylvanos and Ellie would probably be pretty busted. Old moves. Now in 2020, Rivals of Aether Definitive Edition was released. And this included a lot of things. New stages, the milestone system.
Nice.
Steam Workshop support was one of the big ones.
Yes.
So players could create custom characters, stages, game modes, mods, and so forth. Additionally, at this time, teasers began for Rivals 2. At first, it was shown in a brief montage of, like, here's what we're working on. And it was just a 3D model of Zetterburn doing Down Strong. And then a few years later, I think the next year, it was actually announced, along with the sort of founding of Aether Studios, which is the now LLC that the game is developed and published by. Because they're also doing a lot more.
Yeah.
Because in 2020 and 2021, they've kind of started working on and announcing their expansion of the universe. The story of Rivals of Aether is not super present in the game. It has a story mode with some cutscenes and dialogue. It's similar to a lot of fighting games where it's kind of just character A fights character B, they talk a bit.
Yeah. So like Soul Calibur 3, this is not. It's you know, there's people, they fight.
You fight.
It's an arcade
The
mode.
general idea is that there's a few different regions based off the different elements. All of them have their own geopolitical conflicts.
Nice.
Zetterburn and Forsburn are brothers, but Forsburn was adopted, and Forsburn assassinated Zetterburn's dad, and there's like a thing going on there. The Earth has a rock wall that, it's sort of like Game of Thrones. The rock wall protects them from the unknown north.
Nice.
But there's like a hole in it. Air Armada is racist. And Julesvale is San Francisco. It's Silicon Valley. It's fucked. Shoutouts to Eliana for fucking blowing up the Air Armada. And then like the water is just pirates, and Orcane is a prince, but he's gone. As in he's missing.
Nice.
He went on an adventure.
He's a dog.
Whale dog.
He's a whale dog.
Yeah.
How is he a prince?
He's a prince. Zetterburn's a prince. He's a lion.
All right, sure. You're lying.
Also, Clarence from the future. She traveled back in time.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Why did she travel back in time?
I don't know. Future's fucked.
She's like, fuck this. I'm going back a century.
There is a Clarin graphic novel / comic.
Nice.
That tells the story. They also, in 2023, released Dungeons of Aether, which is a prequel to Rivals. That is also a, roguelite dice building game, dice drafting game, RPG. In 2022, they added another update to Rivals with 4 fan-favorite workshop characters remade and added to the base cast, which were Palm, Olympia, Malo, and Hodon. hold on, these nuts. And that's sort of where we are now. Currently, the game is mainly worked on a smaller team, mainly including, I believe, GPIC and SBS, while the main sort of development force in Aether Studios is working on Rivals 2. I also want to shout out Flashy Goodness, who made the soundtrack to Rivals. They are a really good chiptune artist. They also made the soundtrack for Tower of Heaven, the Flash game, which is why Tower of Heaven is a stage in Rivals.
Nice.
Something to note, really fun about Rivals is Dan Fernacey is a epic troll, and they do their annual Rivals Direct announcement stream on April Fools, and they've kept announcing things that they then made real. So first there was Lovers of Aether.
Yeah, I was about to say, now here's a good question. What if I want to date these characters?
Well, you can. There's Lovers of Aether, the official dating sim set in a spin-off of the Aether universe. They also made Rivals of Tether, where you switch the A to a T and it's Tether.
Yep.
Which is an official tetherball game mode. And then they had a April Fool's bit where they had Twitch plays Rivals of Aether. It was Clarin versus Zetterbird, and chat controlled Clarin, and I led them to victory because I said to spam down smash. And so yeah, that's sort of where the game stands now, is a very eclectic collection of official works, some crossovers with other games and other fighting games, and just a lot. And now they're kind of putting themselves out there as sort of a studio now, similar to like how Yacht Club Games is now a publisher after they made big with Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Not Hollow Knight, that's a different company.
Now, speaking of which, this is a really important question. What is the Ryu number of all these characters?
Okay, so if we're talking purely about playable characters, oh god, I don't remember. Okay, so I can tell you, if it's just appearances, then it's with Shovel Knight, you connect that to Smash Bros, which Ryu is in.
Yes.
So Ryu, Shovel Knight, Rivals of Aether. Very easy. Without that, with just playable characters. So we have actually just looked it up, and apparently Brawlhalla is getting Ryu and Chun-Li, which means there is also a link in playable characters from Rivals with Shovel Knight to Brawlhalla with Ryu.
Nice.
So very low Ryu numbers all around. Hand claps.
Golf claps, of course.
We didn't even have to use Fortnite.
Yeah, we didn't even have to consider. Yeah, Fortnite is illegal for Ryu numbers currently, or at the very least, it's kind of its own category. Much like playable.
Yeah, it ruined the Lars from Tekken connection between Naruto and Ryu. So I don't even care. So yeah, that's an important topic we just covered. So Rivals, it is a furry platform fighter. Its controls are similar to Smash. You have run and jump and move. You have an attack button, a special button. Those change depending on what direction you hold. There are strong attacks that are stronger than normal attacks and can be charged up. There are no shields, however.
Yes.
No blocking. You can roll, and you have a parry where you press a button, and if they hit you, they get stunned. If not, then you just kind of sit there sad. But there's no blocking, which means, defensively, movement is king.
Yes.
You have to move a lot, because when you can't block, your best defensive option is to move out of the way. I want to talk... Let's see, where to begin. So, I play this game a lot.
Yes.
One really cool thing about it is the philosophy of character design of Rivals is closer to an anime fighter like Guilty Gear or BlazBlue than even Smash is. Because in Rivals, every character has like a resource or a thing they can put on the stage. For example, Zetterbird has fire that he puts on the ground. Also, putting your opponent on fire is important. Forsburn has smoke that covers the screen. Edalus has ice he puts on the ground, and so forth.
Yeah.
Some characters, it's more important than others. Like Absa's thing she puts on the ground is a cloud, but that's just kind of a projectile she has. She can do stuff with it, but it's less crucial to her playstyle than something like Edalus, who requires ice on the ground to move reasonably.
Yeah.
Edalus is this polar bear who puts ice on the ground, and his dash attack is a little belly slide that you can jump out of, and so it's very good for like the advanced sort of input type of stuff. There's a lot of neat things you can do. But so, for a lot of characters, there is a decision in neutral of, do you want to do nothing except move, and thus you have options to work with, or do you want to work on developing your resource such that you have an advantage long-term at the cost of short-term risk?
Yeah.
So, with Aether, you could put ice on the ground, but your opponent might run up and parry that, or attack you with a long-distance move out of that. So, when you're playing as Aether, you have to wager things like, can my opponent actually hit me from over there? Can they stop me from putting ice on the ground? Once I put ice on the ground, should I immediately worry about what they do, or can I put more ice on the ground? I think this is really neat because for most characters in the game, this makes this really engaging neutral game of, like I said, like, do I want to develop my presence on the stage, or do I want to try to play directly with the opponent?
Yeah.
It's worth noting that the actual way you win a game of Rivals, much like Smash Bros, is to ring the opponent out, and the more you hit them, the more knockback they take. This is pretty standard for platform fighters.
Yes.
Some characters are really good at this. The character I play, Eliana, her strength is that she can carry you to the side of the stage very easily, but she's kind of a glass cannon that gets killed easily herself. For other characters, there is, they have to do a lot of edge guarding, which is where, when your opponent tries to get back onto the stage, you try to put up attacks that prevent them from getting close. Rano is a character that can definitely go out and attack the opponent, but he does have strong edge guarding, because, like, he can stay on the side of the stage and jump, throw out his kick, and just fall down and create a big hitbox. Clarin is bad at going out there and killing you from off stage. So Clarin often has to stay on the stage and prepare some sort of counterattack for when the opponent cuts back to stage.
Yes.
Rivals is very combo heavy compared to other platform fighters, that's worth noting. In Plat Fighters, there is something called DI, or Directional Influence. You can think of this as, you can control the direction you fall, and so sometimes, if the opponent hits you into the air, you can hold away from them to fall away from them. Or you can hold towards them to fall towards them, which means that for some moves this doesn't do anything, but for some moves this causes a big difference in where you end up. You can escape the opponent's combo by just falling away from them.
Yes.
And then if they anticipate you going away from them, you can go the other direction. For some moves this is huge, and this is a big part of the sort of disadvantage state of platform fighters. Is where are you moving while you're being hit?
Yes. So
rule of thumb, down and out.
Yeah. I was about to say. With something like Smash Into Bros, going in, DIing into the combo is not something you usually want to do. There are, however, some specific characters who might have the ability to actually break the combo with that. Mm-hmm. Rivals, or at the very least Rivals in my experience, you definitely want to be out of a combo.
Yeah.
Far more often than not, holding in will just lead to you taking a lot more damage.
Usually it's you hold out, but if the opponent's doing a strong attack, you kind of want to hold in, or else you will go off stage.
Yes.
There is what they call survival DI, which directly influences the direction you travel from a move. And then there's drift DI, which is DI that happens once you're in the air. Drift DI out, survival DI in, but not always. It's per case-by-case basis.
Yeah. It should also be noted that Rivals, as far as movement goes, Rivals does not have grabbing onto edges. Mm-hmm. So edge guarding in this case is literal, but it also is more just meaning like if somebody's off stage and they're trying to get back on, stop them however you can.
Yeah.
However, to go along with this as well is that essentially most of the time your recovery is going to, if you're off stage, your recovery is going to generally look like dash in, try and get to the wall. And then, once you get to the wall, you get an extra, up B or an extra like movement. Essentially, once you get one wall jump, you reset your options, and so once you have gotten to the wall, that is usually where you're at and what you're going to want to try to do is just get back on, and if you can, especially get back on while denying your opponent the ability to knock you back off.
Yeah, so you get 1 air dodge per air time whenever you're hit in the air. You can air dodge once, and you can do something out of air dodge. You can act out of it.
Yes.
So you can air dodge and then do a up special, for example. Every character can wall jump once per air time. You can up special, but when you up special, you often go into special fall where you can't do anything except wall jump.
Yes.
Or land. Obviously, if you land on the ground, you're fine. But so you could do like air dodge, up special, wall jump, up special. If the opponent hits you, you get back all of your resources. Your double jump, your air dodge, your what have you.
Yeah.
Your money.
Yeah, they have to stop to write an apology letter.
So what this leads to is a game that is very combo heavy. Offstage gameplay is weird, and some characters spend a lot of time offstage trying to get back. Other characters can't get back as easily, but have good edge guarding. In general terms, in fighting games, you don't want to be in the corner. And the edge of a stage or off stage is still the corner in a platform fighter, especially Rivals where there's no ledge.
Yeah.
In something like Melee, for example, they have ledge invulnerability, where when you grab onto the ledge, you're safe from any attack for a few seconds, or for 1 second. So sometimes characters want to be on the ledge because they can refresh that invulnerability and play very safely on the ledge. Sheet can do this. Mewtwo can do this if you see a Mewtwo. This is something that Yoshi can use to his advantage. But since there's no ledges in Rivals to grab onto, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Now, here's a bit of a hot take, maybe. I'm kind of tired of this one aspect of Rivals here. If any of my Rivals friends are listening, please know that I'm trying to be as what's the word, like analytical as I can with this.
Yes.
I feel like Rivals is too stratified around speed, specifically ground friction and ground speed. Air speed is fine. There's good characters with good air speed tend to be good, but one of the problems is you can't parry in midair.
Right.
And parrying is good, but also jabbing is really good. Because jabs, if you parry a jab, the person who jabbed does not go into stun. You still get a few frames of invincibility for successfully parrying, but they are safe. You can't really punish them.
Yeah.
They could even parry you back if you try to punish them.
Yeah.
So, being on the ground is good for that. Also in Rivals, parries reflect projectiles, which is huge. I play a character with a big ol' missile, but that move is really bad to use if the opponent's just standing there, because they can reflect it back at me. So, to deal with projectile characters, you also stay on the ground.
Yeah.
So, being on the ground is pretty good. Some characters don't have great anti-air, some do. But then also, being able to move is good, because it's both your best offensive tool and defensive tool. Because to play aggressive, you want to move fast, get out of the opponent's range and back in very quickly, confuse and perplex them, as I like to say. Just be annoying and hard to hit. But also, that's also how you play defensively. If the opponent's trying to go for you, you want to get out of the way of them and then weave back in to punish them. So this leads to some characters being very strong because they have a mix of good, fast, safe moves and good speed. This is why I think Ori and Raster are clear S tiers, because Ori just has good movement, fast moves that are really safe.
Yep.
And then Raster has pretty decent moves with some range, but the big thing is Slipstream greatly increases his speed in both the air and the ground.
Yeah.
That's his resource he puts on the stage is this line of wind that make him go fast.
Now, I would also like to say, though, to go along with the far greater emphasis on movement, this is also a game that lowers the barrier of entry to one of the most basic moves that you can have in any fighting game, the Wavedash.
Yes, wave dashing is a thing in many fighting games, not just Melee.
Yes, so
It's in Marvel, it's in Tekken, it's in 2 games.
it's in 2 games. These are my 2 games. So, okay, Wavedash is like a standard move in Melee. I know it mostly through Melee. I would argue that a lot of people who don't play fighting games mostly know it through Melee. And it is, I'm going to be completely honest here, in Melee, in Super Smash Brothers, Melee, in Sism, it's Sism, anyway, it is stupid. It's bullshit. I hate it. I do not hate the move, but the barrier to entry is so high.
So wave dashing in general terms, it is like in most fighting games, it is a way to move well.
Yeah.
Usually while you're still retaining options. In Melee, it is you jump and then really quickly you air dodge forward and towards the ground, such that you slide along the ground when you air dodge.
Yeah.
This is really important because it does 2 things. 1, it makes a lot of noise. That's a separate thing. That's like 0. 1, it lets you go backwards while still facing the same direction, which is good because you can like punch your opponent in the face if they get close.
Yep.
2, it lets you move forward without running, which means you can do more attacks than just your dash attack.
Yes.
So if I were to run forward and press A, I would do my dash attack. If I wave dash forward, press A, I would move forward and do a jab at the same time. This is pretty big. This is huge.
Yeah.
This affects gameplay.
I do think that people who don't play fighting games tend to essentially, I have seen people give the argument of wave dash shouldn't even be a thing. It was an unintended mechanic. It was a glitch. One, from what I have seen, they didn't intend for it, but they knew it was a thing, and so they did specifically kind of tweak certain properties. No one can look at Luigi and tell me that a developer didn't realize that motherfucker was going to be the wackiest son of a bitch ever.
Yeah, he just goes, hoo, hoo. It's so fun.
2, I do not bemoan the rising of a skill ceiling. Mm-hmm. I think that a higher skill ceiling can, in many ways, just make a game more fun.
Especially a game to be played in tournaments.
Exactly.
However, you don't want a high skill floor.
Yes.
Which is to say the base requirement for engaging with the cool, fun part of the game.
Yes. And Melee, to stand up in Melee in general, you have to learn wave dashing. If you want to get to the higher levels, you have to learn wave dashing.
Not even higher levels, like middle levels.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go 0-2 at locals.
Exactly.
And don't you dare bring up Borp.
and it is far too hard of a trick for a random person off the street to learn. Thankfully, Rivals, and indeed a whole lot of other fighting games.
Yeah, most platform fighters, most indie platform fighters have ways to get around this, either by creating a dedicated dash button, like Multiverses or Rushdown Revolt. Hey, what do those 2 games have in common?
Wait a minute. They both... Hang on. Rushdown Revolt, Multiverses, they both have Shovel Knight.
No, they don't. Neither of them do. But Rivals and games like Slap City, instead, let you just press jump and dodge at the same time.
Yep. It is so nice. It is so... Right. Here's the thing. It was so freeing, and it is so freeing for somebody like me who has very rarely ever been like particularly great at fighting games. I'm learning nowadays. I can take one stock off this chump at least. Mm-hmm. But It is also so nice to just be able to use use something that is in other ways like unattainable to me. That is nice. I think that lower skill floors are a net positive good, and in many ways I think that they can also mean that you have a higher skill ceiling, because
Right.
if this kind of fun weird tech is available to everyone, well, you can do more things with more things.
Right. The general idea is that you want players to, like I said, be able to engage with the fun, cool part of the game. And in most fighting games, that comes not just in knowing how to do moves, but in being able to apply those strategically against an opponent.
Yeah.
Or to express yourself with the character. That's not to say there can't be complicated mechanics. There are a lot of weird inputs and weird tech in Rivals, but most of those are sort of for character specialists.
Yeah. For example, Olympia, for example, if you do her down special, she crashes the game.
Down strong.
Down strong,
Yeah.
sorry.
No. But other similar like accessibility things, there is a concept of wave landing, which is when you jump and instead of just falling down to a platform above you, or that was above you, like say you're trying to go up onto a platform. You can either jump, go above it, and then land, or you can air dodge onto the platform so that you land quicker.
Yeah.
In Rivals, if you're like more than halfway through the platform and you air dodge towards the platform, then you'll wave land onto it, which actually means you can jump and land on it quicker than if you were to wait till you were all the way above the platform. But that means it's a lot easier to wave land onto platforms to then do other things.
Yeah.
Another one is moonwalking, which is pretty useful for some characters because it lets you gain a lot of speed going backwards, which is normally hard to do.
Yep.
And these are games where you have backwards attacks.
Yeah.
Back aerials.
Back aerial in, I think basically most games essentially reward you for being, for them being back by generally doing more damage than your forward aerials.
Or they're like a better combo tool.
Yep.
Yeah, they cover more space. And moonwalking in Melee requires putting your control stick at a specific angle and then another specific angle, and then not moving from that angle. And it takes a ton of practice, or it takes you carving a little notch in your controller. In Rivals, it's pretty much just half circle backwards.
Yep.
Picture like you're riding a U. Yeah. And then another big thing is just you can use a lot of different controllers.
Yeah.
GameCube controllers kind of suck, long term especially.
Yeah.
So I play Rivals on Xbox controller. I know people who play on like arcade hitboxes, what they're called. People who play keyboard, people use PS4 controllers. It's great.
Even weirdos who still use GameCube controllers.
Yeah, this is just a standard for fighting games.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good. I did want to go back though to the character tech.
Yes.
This is another thing that I love about Rivals is that every individual character has a lot of depth. They have a lot of moves that are multi-purpose. So, for example, Forsburn's neutral air, his Nair, it is multi-hit, so it goes through certain armored moves. It is a decent combo tool to where you can hit somebody and then fast fall to the ground, falling faster, and then you can hit them again. It also pulls the opponent in a weird way, which makes it hard to DI. But also, if you hit fast fall it at a certain point, it'll shoot them further downward than upward. So it's a move that has like 3 or 4 purposes and a lot of interesting decisions you can do with just that move. Every character has like 20 things like that. Like every character is designed such that they have a resource, they use their resource in interesting ways, and their moves are multi-purpose. Another example is Orcane Forward Air. He spits a bunch of bubbles out of his mouth. You can use this to kind of create a wall of hitboxes. So like if the opponent's trying to jump at you, you can use it, create this big wall of projectiles, and then do another attack to combo them. You can use it to catch people while they're landing. You can edge guard with it. But also, if you hold the opposite direction after you do it, you move backwards with like recoil. So you could use this to recover. If you're not facing the stage, you can forward air away from the stage and push yourself towards the stage.
Yep. You go, wee.
Also, there's a hitbox for Orcane's butt. The
Yep.
bubble butt, they call it.
Yep.
So
it's like using up special as Ness into someone.
it's like a Peach forward special.
Yeah.
You know, when she goes, hut-cha!
Hut-cha.
So you can just crash into people with it. And since the speed is additive from the forward air, you can run at them, turn around, jump, forward air away from them, and just shoot towards them with a ton of speed. That is just such a fun thing.
Yeah.
Or like, Eliana creates steam clouds that do hits, and those are usually kind of easy to deal with because they're big and slow, even though she can use attacks to push it around.
Yeah.
But if you create it on the ground and then you press a down air, like really close to the ground, the steam shoots along the ground like a cannon.
Yeah.
I call it steam cannon. There's another name the community has for it that sucks. but that is like a little interaction of mechanics with her moves that is just like an emergent property. The programming just says steam gets pushed by attack. The way it interacts there is fully emergent based on just consequences that happen. And that is so cool to me. People keep finding things for characters, and the fact that every character has so much little depth to it is like, that's why I love fighting games.
Yeah.
Is that you could play a character for hundreds of hours and still not have seen everything they can do. One last design bit.
Yes.
I want to talk about stages.
Yes.
In most fighting games, stages don't matter. They are cool, they look nice. If they matter, it's usually in terms of lag. Some stages will have a lot in the background and they'll be laggy. Flatfighters decided, well, we're platformers, so we're going to add platforms you can jump on, but not every stage has the same layout of platforms.
Yes.
This creates an interesting situation where some stage layouts are better for other characters. And there's a lot of depth to this, and in tournaments, you actually sort of take turns picking. The way it goes is there are 5 stages called starter stages. Players take turns banning one of the starting stages until there's one remaining. That's how you fight round 1.
Yes.
Game 2, the winner of the previous game bans 3 stages the opponent cannot pick. And then the opponent picks one of the remaining stages to go to hopefully get a stage better for them.
Yes. So, for example, I main Clarin. Clarin is pretty good. She has a sword. She has a bubble that acts as a counter where if you hit it with a projectile, then you can't spawn projectiles in that. The no fun zone. She has pretty good aerials. She has a tipper. And so Clarin really thrives in a place that has a number of platforms, and especially a place that happens to have, say, platforms on farther sides of the actual arena, because she also kind of sucks at recovery in general. So if I was playing Clarin, I would not, for example, want to go to the final destination stage. That's just sort of a single flat area. I also might not want to go to an area that has like, a hard platform that you can't actually drop down through. But if something like, say, a standard Battlefield stage, the standard sort of 3 platform arena that is in most Smash games, and indeed a lot of most Plat fighters, from my understanding, because it's a staple now, those are, generally pretty good. And so if it came to a decision between a number of stages, I might want something like that.
Yeah. Or for Clarin, Forest Floor is a good stage to start with, because Clarin has her up tilt can cover the platforms. It can hit people standing on those platforms.
Yeah.
And additionally, Clarin doesn't mind the relatively small size of the stage, because it gives her a greater percentage of stage that she can control.
Yeah.
And so Clarin might want to go there, whereas me playing against Clarin might want to ban that stage. Especially if I'm Eliana, who wants to stay at a distance early game until I'm able to get a few key hits in. I would rather ban that and go to someplace like Jules Vale, which has one platform that moves left to right, and then sometimes another one above that, because that stage has a lot of room for me to move left and right, and a lot of airspace for me to fly around in. Whereas the Blast Zone, the part of the top of the stage where you get wrung out, is shorter on Forest Floor.
Yeah.
Another good example is Sylvanos on Treetop Lodge. his upstrong can hit people who are standing on the right platform of Treetop Lodge.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a nifty thing, and that's something that a player playing Sylvanos would consider.
Yeah, that is also a thing where, for example, clearance up tilt, if a platform is low enough, will be able to actually just hit somebody from below it, and so that's something you want to keep in mind is, can I actually hit somebody with where this platform is?
Another one is, I notoriously like the two most controversial stages, Trouble Pond and Tempest Peak. Both of which have platforms that hang over the side of the stage, and otherwise they're really awkward and laid out unusually. But for Eliana, it's really easy to edgeguard those stages, especially Tempest Peak, which has a short side blast zone, meaning if I want to ring them out by pushing them to the side, it's easier. But also, as Sylvanos, Tempest Peak has platforms in the perfect spot to hit a sweet spot bear, where if you snipe them just right, you kill them pretty much.
Yeah.
And on Trouble Pond, it's the same thing, except also Eliana can cover the side platforms way easier on Trouble Pond. So like, there's a lot of strategy in terms of what stage you pick. Even if you don't know what stage, you can just go random, obviously, or you can be like, yeah, whatever works. But I think that's a really fun aspect of platform fighters, is sort of engaging with the environment like that.
Yeah.
It's not to say that it makes it better than traditional fighters, because I think that it is nice how in traditional fighters, you don't have to worry about the stage. You can just kind of go whatever and just worry about character.
Yeah. Traditional fighters are a lot more... I mean, I would say they're a lot more matchup focused. Especially something that, say, lets you pick multiple characters, like Marvel vs. Capcom. Whereas Plat Fighters, while they are matchup focused in a lot of ways,
especially Rivals,
you are, I would say, at less of an immediate disadvantage if you are still very good at movement.
I would say that at a high level, the stage is a form of counterplay you can use to make yourself better in the matchup.
Yeah.
To gain some sort of advantage.
Yeah.
In Melee, especially, you'll see Jigglypuff players go to Dreamland constantly.
Yep.
Because they live much longer on Dreamland.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, good thing they got Dreamland out of the way. Now they can't go there anymore. I think, so Fighting GamePril, I think, part of why we're doing this is to just talk about fighting games we like.
Yeah.
Because fighting games are interesting. And we honestly didn't cover a lot of things about Rivals, but I am mainly approaching this from the side of design and the abstract.
Yeah.
I didn't really talk about all the characters and why Eliana is the best. She is ska and punk. She's great. Or how Malo is trans. He's cool.
Yeah. Trans Mothman.
Mm-hmm. Or how Palm is Hatsune Miku. And Vince is the best bodyguard in the world, just doing his job, just making ends meet, going home to his family, working a 9 to 5, getting fireballs thrown at his face. He comes home, puts dinner on the table, goes to sleep, wakes up, has to deal with Palm being annoying. He makes ends meet.
Is that a copy pasta?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
Rivals friends, if you're listening, you know what to do. You know what to do in that, what you need to do is play Rivals. It's a fun game. It's funny. A lot of traditional fighter friends of mine love Rivals, and it's the only plat fighter they'll touch.
Yeah.
They'll be like, yeah, Rivals is sick. And then somebody else will walk up and they'll be like, oh yeah, I played Rivals for a bit. It was good. And then somebody else is like, yeah, the only plat fighter I'd really try to play competitively is Rivals. Like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Rivals is a very good, I would say Rivals is a very good, level 2 kind of game, as far as you have tried Smash Bros and you went, this is my jam, but I want to play something else, and I want to play, I want to get more competitive into it. It is a very good jumping off point, because a lot of the baseline mechanics are still very similar. You do have to rewire your thinking a lot of it. That is a barrier to entry, I would say. But once you do that, like other plat fighters will feel a little slow. At the very least, like going back to Ultimate, I was like, oh wow, I used to. It's like playing Monk in Final Fantasy XIV and then going to playing like fucking any other class. It's like, wow, I tolerated this speed.
Yeah, it's like playing 200cc and then going to 150cc and then going to 100cc.
Yeah, it's hang on, let me see if I can one up you there. It's like playing SSX 3 and then playing SSX Tricky.
I mean, those are both pretty good games. So.
They are both very good games, but SSX Tricky
Definitely,
is a lot stickier.
Yeah, it's sticky and trickier.
Yeah, it's sticky to Rocket Rhyme. Oh no.
What did they put in the snow?
That's why it took 3 years to make SSX 3.
Quick, just lightning round of shoutouts. Shoutouts to the Steam Workshop. Shoutouts to the Germa mod.
Yes.
Officially approved by Germa.
Yes.
Shoutouts to Sego, the GOAT, who won the workshop bracket at Genesis this year by playing Germa. It was a whole bit. He then retired from Rivals forever. Shoutouts to the Iowa crew. Shoutouts to the Wisconsin crew. Shoutouts to the Chicago crew. Shoutouts to the STL crew.
Yep.
For being cool. And shoutouts to you for listening.
And viewers like you, thank you. Shoutouts one more time as well to the workshop. I would definitely say that if you pick up Rivals and it's not your thing competitively, Workshop is so stupid in so many ways. A lot of really well done characters, but also
including like you can look at something like Genesis or Riptide and just download their character pack to get a tournament viable, relatively balanced set of characters.
Yeah.
Or you could, download Ronald McDonald and be a fucking asshole. You could download some of the wacky ones like Dan Backslide or Morshoe or Mr. Monopoly Man or just all the weird ones. Unregistered Hypercam is my main in Workshop, by the way.
Unregistered Hypercam.
Rousey with a gun.
Rousey with a gun shouts out. I also love Hat Kid.
Hat
Kid isn't even like Hat Kid is just genuinely really fun.
Speedrunner Mario and Speedrunner Link.
Yep. Toby Fox.
Yeah. Blaziken.
Yep.
Good characters.
Wait, isn't Blaziken just Forceburn?
No.
Not Forceburn. Fuck. I fucked it up.
You fucked it up so bad.
I fucked up the joke.
All right. Should have tacked. So thank you for listening. You can find us on any podcasting platform under NetSurfer Pro. You can follow us at any podcasting platform you like. Give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see from us in the future, or just things that you think we should check out. You can follow me on twitch.tv/twack, twitch.tv/twak, where I stream most weekdays from about 1 p.m. Central Time to 3 or 4 p.m. Central Time. And there's some big streams coming up. There is, first off, May 1st through 31st, so all of May, I will be streaming every Mega Man game, so Mega Man 1 through 11, Mega Man X through X6, and I'll be raising money for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation as my Mega May Marathon. Additionally, for reaching certain stretch goals and milestones for donation, I'll also be adding to the marathon schedule. I'll be adding to the schedule streams for Street Fighter X Mega Man, Mega Mari, Nezumi Man, and Mighty Number 9 if I raise enough money. So check that out if you want to donate to charity for a good cause and watch me play Mega Man games. And also, Saturday, April, let me get the time right, 22nd, that is 2 Saturdays after this episode goes live, I will be streaming the first NetSurfer Presents. Matthew Marissa tries to explain the lore of Coheed and Cambria. You ever heard of Coheed and Cambria? Wondered what those songs are all about? Well, that's what I hope to answer. So check that out. Also, you can just follow me on Twitter at Twackaroo, TWAKAROO, where I tweet when I go live and hot takes and other nonsense.
Hey, as for me, you can find me on Twitter and TikTok at Galen Wilson. That's at GALENWLS0N. I've been posting my opinions on things on TikTok. I think I've done a pretty good job. You can find me on YouTube at The Only Galen on YouTube. I'll have a video one of these days. And you can find me on Twitch at Machine Gun Vampire, where, I don't know, maybe I'll actually be streaming some fighting game stuff this month. I've been needing to stream more, and this is the perfect opportunity, I suppose.
I would say play the game we're covering at the end of the month, but the servers for it have been bad, so...
Yeah.
I wouldn't put your hopes up.
I also wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to spoil it, of course, for everyone else.
Yeah. No, but then they would have to watch your stream.
Oh god, that's a good point. I'll be playing every game we're ever going to cover in this next month.
I can't believe it. You're finally going to play Tunic.
Yeah.
All right, see ya.
See ya.